You're watching Channel 13, KTRK-TV Houston, #1 in Texas. Eyewitness News with Dave Ward. Marvin Zindler's Action 13. Bob Allen has sports, and Ed Brandon's weather. Now, Channel 13, Eyewitness News, tonight.
Good evening, friends. One child is known dead. 2 others are missing tonight at the Brooklyn Zoo in New York after being attacked by 2 polar bears there. Authorities say they received a phone call around 7 this evening, well after the zoo had closed, from an anonymous caller who said children were in the zoo and were screaming. Officials shot 2 of the bears that were eating on a child's body. Clothing of 3 children was found, but no sign of the other 2. Police don't know how the children got into the zoo, whether they were hiding until it closed or sneaked in after it closed. The police department in Bryan has issued an arrest warrant tonight for the man they think may have abducted a 9-year-old girl missing since last week. Police believe the man in this composite sketch is 44-year-old James Otto Earhart of Bryan. Police now searching for him in connection with the disappearance of Kandy Kirtland. Kirtland's family says the suspect came to their home 2 weeks ago in response to an ad they ran in a newspaper advertising an appliance for sale. Last Tuesday, neighbors say they saw him outside the Kirtland's house when no one was at home. That was also the last day that Kandy was seen. Anyone who has seen this man or knows James Otto Earhart is asked to please call the Bryan Police Department. 2 Houston men are in custody tonight charged with capital murder in connection with the killing of the so-called Good Samaritan. Stephen Govain reports on how police were able to solve the case, which began as a gesture of help on a dark highway.
This is where 30-year-old James Willingham sat as he tried to restart a disabled car on the North Freeway Sunday night. The car was not his own. He had stopped to help a woman and her daughter. During the assist, 2 men stopped by and one of them shot Willingham in the head. 22-year-old Vincent Wayne Robinson and 29-year-old Andrew Davidson Jr. have been arrested by police and charged with the murder of the so-called Good Samaritan. These are composite sketches of the suspects drawn by a police artist from descriptions provided by the witnesses at the scene. The descriptions given to police must have been pretty good because when the composites were shown on television, they produced quick results.
On Monday night, when the composite drawings of these suspects were released on television, a person with information after seeing these composite drawings called us. They called our homicide division about 15 minutes after the pictures went out. Gave the detectives information that one of the suspects was in the county jail at this time.
Davidson, wearing the camouflage jacket, had indeed been in the county jail. He had been arrested early Monday on a weapons possession charge. Police spokesman J.C. Mosher said detectives then worked all night Monday to try to find Davidson's accomplice. Robinson was picked up early Tuesday. Both were charged late Tuesday night. Police said they have recovered stolen purse items and lawn equipment taken from the scene of the shooting. Meanwhile, 5 men and women who have benefited from transplants of James Willingham's organs are said to still be in critical but stable condition. Stephen Govain, Eyewitness News, Houston Police Headquarters.
U.S. officials learned today that a total of 37 crew members were killed on Sunday in that missile attack on the USS Stark. As the investigation into the attack continues, officials are trying to determine why the frigate's defense system failed, and we have more on that from David Insor.
Most of the surviving crew were back on board today as the crippled vessel was towed slowly to port in Bahrain. Some of the crew shouted out to reporters, "We are fine." Parts of the ship are still hot from fires. A faint smell of smoke still in the air. The commander of the U.S. Navy Mideast Force conceded that the Stark didn't try to make radio contact until the Iraqi plane was at close range, though they had been tracking it for many miles.
Crew of the Stark did not believe they were being taken under fire by a hostile aircraft.
He said at that time the captain, Glenn Brendel, was not on the bridge, but probably in the Combat Control Center. He also said there's no hard evidence yet that missiles had been picked up by the ship's radar and electronic weapon systems. The admiral said he believes a lookout did make a visual sighting, but only seconds before impact. In any case, he said the ship had less than a minute to activate its anti-missile defense after the missile had been fired. David Ensor, ABC News, Bahrain.
President Reagan ordered the flag flying at half-staff in memory of the 37 who died aboard the Stark. Speaking to high school students in Chattanooga, Tennessee today, the president also said there must never be another such attack on an American ship.
This tragedy must never be repeated. From now on, If aircraft approach any of our ships in a way that appears hostile, there is one order of battle. Defend yourselves. Defend American lives.
Later, the president said Iran must shoulder indirect responsibility for this attack. The president said U.S. ships were sent to the Persian Gulf to keep it open after Iran threatened to close the Gulf to keep supplies from getting to Iraq. In Houston, families of two sailors who feared their sons were killed or injured on the USS Stark are celebrating tonight that both men are alive and well. The parents of 23-year-old gunner's mate Nick Norfleet did not receive word of their son's fate until early this morning.
She said, "Jean, hallelujah." And I said, "Oh, Claudia, is it true?" And she said, "Yes, Nick's name is on the list." And then we cried together. It was wonderful.
The Navy Personnel Office did call and notify us that he was on the able list and everything was all right. And honestly, after the 2 nights prior to that and all day long, the waiting, I was so tired and so sleepy that I do not remember the phone call.
The other crew member from Houston aboard the Stark is 34-year-old Chief Petty Officer Lawrence Barrow, Jr. He also was reported on the list of able-bodied sailors. His parents are with his wife and children in Mayport, Florida. Nightline will have more on the United States' involvement in the Persian Gulf and the danger of being in those waters, and that will follow immediately after this newscast. Action 13's Marvin Zendler reports on a car ad that has more to it than meets the eye. And we'll have his report and more when Eyewitness News Tonight continues.
Dear sir, you say that day in and day out, it's virtually impossible to beat 7-Eleven's price on a gallon of milk. I wouldn't believe that if I heard it from my own mother. Michael, here is your own mother.
Michael, believe Mr. Coleman, it's the truth.
Happy, Mike?
For a limited time, a gallon of Sunnydale homogenized milk, just $2.19. 7-Eleven. Now even good prices come easy.
Where'd I go wrong?
Texas lawmakers over in Austin tonight have buried a little of our state's Wild West image by voting down the bill that would have allowed Texans to carry concealed weapons. Some called it the John Wayne bill. Its supporters and sponsors in the House argued it was the only way to put a potential crime victim on even ground with an attacker. But the bill was tabled in the House, and unless it is revived in the Senate, it's a dead issue, at least this time around. Action 13's Marvin Zendler tonight has another complaint about a Houston car dealer, the same one he reported on last night. Once again, it concerns a deceptive ad.
That's right. Tonight is part 2 of What You See Ain't What You Get. I reported last night that Steeplechase Nissan refused to sell Lawrence Lynn this car for the price advertised in the May 9th Chronicle. They'd lease it to him for that price, despite the fact the ad clearly states this is not a lease. The excuse from Steeplechase was that the Chronicle left out an asterisk, and the footnote should have read $500 down on a sale. Well, that doesn't even make sense since the ad says no lease and 0 down. Then I received a complaint against this ad Steeplechase Nissan ran a week earlier in the Post. The ad says in bold print, 0 down, buy. I repeat, buy any new or used car. Brenda Shoemate wanted this car for the advertised price. $0 down and $175 a month. There was a little asterisk, and the fine print says $1 down plus tax, title, and license. Steeplechase Nissan even refused to honor what was written in fine print.
Well, they told me because of the trade-in on my car, I would have to pay $1,700 down and $425 a month for 48 months. So I just said, now wait a minute. You mean if I walk in here without my car for a trade-in and pay you $1 down, as the ad states, I could have this car for $175 a month? Well, the girl was confused, so I went and talked to the manager, and they told me that this was two separate deals, that the $0 with the asterisk down was a purchase price, and that the $175 was a lease price. That's not what the ad states.
I took both of these ads to the Houston Automobile Dealers Association and asked the group's president, Walter Wainwright, what's going on here? Doesn't the association police its own members?
The Motor Vehicle Commission Advertising Code regulates all new car dealer advertising in the state of Texas. The Commission has a strong track record of taking action in problem areas with advertising. I would recommend that this consumer or any other consumer who has a problem go before the Commission and let them take a look at it.
What does Steeplechase Nissan General Manager say about this second deceptive ad?
Well, Marvin, I didn't know that we had a problem with this ad until you called me yesterday. These ads are a bit confusing, and our policy around here is we're certainly not going to run this type ad again. We want to run something that the public understands, and we're certainly sorry, and we're going to mend our ways.
You know, the general manager of Steeplechase Nissan, Bob Burrows, has only been on the job a short time, and I'm convinced he's an honorable person who means well. However, I think the owner of Steeplechase Nissan, Charlie Thomas, should take as much interest in his 22 auto dealerships as he does in the Rockets. These last two reports are examples of exactly what I mean. Marvin Zindler, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Marvin. Bob Allen up next with sports news. Stay with us.
Big savings. While Eckert is...
Time for sports with Bob Allen. It rained in Pittsburgh, but they're playing anyway, aren't they?
That's too bad it did. It was an hour 26-minute rain delay, at which time the Astros were behind 2-0. Two more outs and the game would have been called, but then they resumed the game an hour 26 minutes later, and much to the Astros' chagrin, the Astros are losing 5-2 in the ninth inning to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Let's pick it up in the sixth inning. Pittsburgh is up 2-0, but then Glenn Davis, his bat's back in order, solo home run. That's his first one since May the 3rd. That made it 2-1. Then in the 7th inning, after Hatcher tripled, he score right here on Doran's fielder's choice. He'll throw him out at first and heads up base running by Hatcher. He's safe. That ties it at 2. Now, with the Pirates, bases loaded, Bonilla to Doran, to Fon, who dropped it. The winning run, the go-ahead run, scored, made it 3-2. Johnny Ray hit a sacrifice fly, making it 4-2. It's 5-2 now, with the Astros batting in the 9th inning. On the National League scoreboard, this is what it looks like. San Francisco over Montreal 6-2. New York beats San Diego 5-4. LA at Philly was rained out. Atlanta knocks off St. Louis. And this afternoon in Chicago, the Astros moved to within a game and a half of first when Rick Sutcliffe became the first 7-game winner in the majors as the Cubs beat the Reds 9-2. Andre Dawson collected 4 singles while Sutcliffe gave up only 5 hits. The win was a nice welcome back gift for legendary Cubs announcer Harry Carey, who returned to the booth for the first time since suffering a stroke back in February. Carey was given a proclamation from the Illinois governor and got a telephone call from an ex-sportscaster in Washington.
Let's play ball.
Harry?
Hello?
This is Ronald Reagan.
Well, Mr. President, well, what a pleasant surprise.
Well, listen, I'm just joining all your other fans across the country and welcoming you back on the air today.
Well, that's awfully nice. I don't know what to say. I certainly appreciate it, sir.
Well, you know, I know it's Harry Carey Day in the Chicago area, and it's great to have you back. But listen, you've had a lot of big-name celebrities fill in during your recovery, but there's no substitute for the real thing.
Well, you're awfully nice. Thank you so much, sir.
And only 2 finals in the American League. Cleveland beats Minnesota by a run. Kansas City 4, Boston 1. Eastern Conference NBA final got kicked off tonight in Boston. Celtics win it over the Pistons 104-91. Some of the highlights: Robert Parrish with a rebound, long pass to Larry Bird, who had 18 points. That's in. Watch the Isaiah Thomas drive from the left side, turning, jumping. That's in for 2. Johnson to Bird with a patented Larry Bird jumper. And Parrish with the interception gets it down to Dennis Johnson right there. Long pass. The Boston fast break works again. He's up and he's in. And Seasting passes to Parrish. Robert Parrish, high point man for the game with 31 points. Boston leads the series 1-0. In West at the Forum in Los Angeles, the Lakers are leading the Seattle Sonics in the second period. That score 34-33. So Boston leads Detroit, and the Astros are losing.
Well, get us a final before we get off.
We'll do it.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Let's look at the weather picture. Ed Brandon here to tell us about tornado in Kansas.
I have something interesting to show you, Dave. In Kansas, a series of tornadoes have been spotted overhead, and some of them have been vividly recorded. One resident in Chase County, Kansas, got out his video camera and recorder and took these tremendous pictures of the twisters. In fact, Mark Shankenberg recorded 3 of several tornadoes that swept through Kansas Monday. Just as one twister would disappear, another would appear from the clouds. Even though the view from Shankenberg's house looked frightening, there were no serious injuries and only slight damage. Good video from Mark Shankenberg. If you should happen to capture some severe weather with your video camera, we'd like to have it here at Eyewitness News. Can't pay you a lot of money. We're still paying for the network, but we'll give you all the tape you can eat or something like that. Back with the weather after this. Good evening. We might have some heavy weather overnight. Let's look at Galveston radar. We're scanning on the close range, and just entering this range of Galveston radar, some very heavy thunderstorms. These thunderstorms have passed through the Austin and San Antonio area. We showed them to you at 6 o'clock, said they weren't moving very rapidly, and indeed they weren't. Some parts of San Antonio had over 3 inches of rain. There is a tornado watch in effect for portions of southeast Texas. We'll get to that in just a minute. Let's look at Texas-wide radar. The thunderstorm activity extends actually from the lower Rio Grande Valley up through south central Texas into the north central portion of the state. Tornado watches are in effect until midnight tonight for all of this area, also for portions of eastern Kansas and eastern Oklahoma, rather, in northern Kansas and southern Nebraska. Now, this does not include the Houston or Galveston area, but the counties that were probably watching us, Columbus, Grimes, Wharton, and Washington counties in south central Texas are all in this tornado watch until midnight tonight. Those are counties to the northwest of the city, and it's possible that during the middle of the night another tornado watch could be issued if the thunderstorm activity continues. Here's the way they're moving. Generally, the thunderstorms are moving in a northeasterly direction. The individual or the entire line of thunderstorms is moving to the southeast as the individual thunderstorms move to the northeast, if you can understand that. Temperatures in the 60s in the Panhandle and central Texas because of the clouds and rain, 70s in most of the rest of the state. At 9 o'clock, it was still 84 degrees in Laredo. Here in Houston, our low temperature this morning, 71, high this afternoon, 88, no rainfall today. At Intercontinental Airport at 10 o'clock, 78 degrees. Same thing here at KTRK, 77 at Hobby. Barometer rising, wind southeasterly at 5, the relative humidity 79%. Very, very humid. Today's high temperatures, and this gives you a clue as to why this weather is happening. A lot of warm, moist air is pumping up from the Gulf of Mexico into the south central United States, meaning cooler air and drier air coming down from Canada. And it's that time of year when thunderstorms develop. As a result, the thunderstorm activity extends all the way up, as you saw, into Kansas. Generally, thunder shower activity along this front that's stationary in the eastern part of the country. This front has very little chance of making it much further to the south. A trough of low pressure in West Texas is the dividing line between very warm, moist air, slightly drier, cooler air. That trough will be moving across the state. It won't cool us down. It will probably just bring us a chance of thunderstorms. For tomorrow, a chance of thunderstorms with the trough almost into the western portion of Harris County. On Thursday, it could be a little bit better with partly sunny skies and the chance of rain going down from 30 to 20%. For Galveston Bay, caution to operators of small craft, especially if those storms move out into the Gulf. Slightly choppy to choppy waters, south to southeasterly winds 15 knots. Offshore, seas will run 3 to 5 feet. And our forecast for the next 3 days, some clouds, some sun. Low temperatures at night in the low to mid 70s, highs in the afternoon in the upper 80s to low 90s. 30% chance of rain on Wednesday, 20% on Thursday and Friday. It's spring, and these are spring thunderstorms.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ed. Stay with us. We'll have a follow-up story to a young girl who had heart surgery. That's coming up in a minute.
Well, they're right at about 500, and I think in this game
Finally tonight, we told you about a young Honduran girl 2 weeks ago who was brought to Houston for heart surgery. Well, today, as Christy Myers reports, you won't recognize the child who's causing raised eyebrows at the place where she was sent for recovery.
Los libros, los animales del arca de Noah.
It's the first book Karen Amaya has ever owned, and this is the finest dress she has ever worn.
Karen's looking great.
From a cardboard shack in Honduras to Houston's medical center, if there is a good side to her congenital heart condition, it's that she's seeing a new world and meeting strangers who welcome her with open arms. 2 weeks ago, Karen had surgery to patch a hole in her heart. Yesterday, she came here to recuperate. This is not the usual place where you would expect to find a 6-year-old, for Karen is now the youngest resident of St. Anthony's Center for Geriatric Care. Karen ended up in St. Anthony's because all of her medical care was donated. And here is where she met Renan Strickland, who is teaching her to do the two-step.
She had a smile upon her lips, I had a lump in my throat. And in the darkness there, she led me where she wanted to go.
Of course, Karen is quickly becoming a favorite as she wanders the corridors.
Whatever she says to them in Spanish, they seem to understand it too. It's just it's a language of love, I think.
And glorious. I liked it very much. She's a very sweet little girl.
Why is it special to you to have a child here?
I don't know, I just love children.
Karen's 2 weeks here will be a time of warmth and security and love that she's never known before. For her elderly friends, it will be a time of renewal to once again feel free to show their love. Neither Karen or people at St. Anthony's will ever be the same. Christy Myers, Eyewitness News.
Okay, thank you, Christy. Let's go over here to Bob Allen and get a final in the ball game, Bobby.
The bad news is, David, the Astros lose to the Pirates 5-2 tonight. And the bad thing about that, they had a couple on in the ninth inning. They threatened to score. With the Reds losing today to the Cubs, they could have gotten within a game of the Reds in first place right now, so they're back to 2 games out.
Well, win tomorrow, let's hope.
Gain no ground.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And that's Eyewitness News for tonight. Thank you for being with us, and good night.